All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. This is a preview of what you might expect in one of your Zoom sessions. My name is George Limberakis. I'm one of the 5 facilitators of the EFT training program. And so we've got some people today who are playing the role of students so that you can get a sense of what's it going to be like when you log on to your first Zoom session. And so today what we're going to be practicing is tell the story technique. And so typically we hope that people will have viewed the videos and read the modules and re-reviewed the videos so that they really start to internalize the information. We don't have time to teach the information in the Zoom sessions. The Zoom sessions are about practice, and this is where we practice the techniques. And so we've got this cool technology that allows us to break people up into dyads in their own separate rooms, and then I, as the facilitator, will move from room to room and assist people with any questions or whatever they've got going on. So as I said, we're going to practice tell the story technique. We know that tell the story technique is the backbone of EFT. It's a technique that you'll use about 80% of the time. In the breakout sessions, one of you will play the role of the clinician and the other the role of the patient for half the time, and then we'll switch. And I'll let you know when it's time to switch roles. So students report benefiting from playing both the patient and the clinician. So there's as much value to be had from either experience. So if you're playing the role of the patient, you'll want to have ready a specific event to work on. So we don't get into anything too heavy. Choose an event that has an initial SUDS rating of about 4 or below. And in the interest of keeping the event contained, and that's an important concept in EFT that we'll talk about more as we go along. So the event should be about 1 to 3 minutes long. And it's going to be a discrete event with a beginning and a middle and an end, like a short movie. And something that occurred at least 5 years ago or older. And it'll have up to 3 crescendos or emotional points of emotional activation. So if you're feeling any performance anxiety about your practice session, you've got to just take some deep breaths and you might do some tapping. Remember that everyone's here to learn. No one's expected to be an expert at this point in your training. And you have the instructions for tell the story technique in your handouts. So if you pull that out and follow along, you just follow along with the instructions and have some fun with it. And I'll move around from room to room and observe what's going on, answer any questions. And if I'm not in a practice room and you need me, there's a little button down the bottom there that says raise your hand, and you raise that and I'll pop in. So any questions before we get into our breakout session? Cool. All right, so you're going to receive an invitation to go into a breakout room, and if you will accept that invitation. Okay, here comes your invitation.
Here it is.
All right, so accept that. You'll be in your room, and it'll just be the 2 of you alone in the room. All right, so the students have gone into their practice sessions now, and we spend the majority of the time each session in the breakout rooms practicing the techniques that was taught in the week's modules. So it's important for students to have watched and learned the information presented in the modules. Because one of the advantages of this virtual interactive format is that students have unlimited access to the videos, so they can view and review the videos to fully grasp the information. It's a real advantage over the live workshop, where once you get home and you realize that you don't fully understand a concept, it's difficult to go back and how do you get clarification on that?
This is cool. So do you have something you want to be the client for, or?
Well, I do, but it's not 5 years old. It's more like 5 minutes old, and it is like really short though, and it does have like 4 or below. So it ticks some of the boxes that we've been asked to tick.
All right. Well, I think the purpose of this is for people to kind of get a sense of how cool this is in terms of the technology, not the EFT part, but that we get to really practice.
Yeah.
So I think we can. George will forgive us if we break the rule about that. So. So it's something specific, so that's good. What would you say it is? Oh, here's George. Hi, George. We have something that's not old, but since we're just practicing the idea, we figured it'd be okay.
Okay.
Is that okay, boss?
Yeah.
All right.
So what do you got?
Right before coming on, Sasha said, "Oh, do you want me to set it up for you?" And I said, "Sure." So my somewhat autistic husband came upstairs, and then he set it up on his computer, not mine, as I had originally asked, and then started working on his computer. And then when I came upstairs, because I like to have a few moments of centering and preparing and this, but he was like working right up until the last second. And I was like, I hate it when you do that. He's like, do what? I was right here. It's like, he just doesn't get it. And it's just this like mismatch between neurotypical and someone autistic, and also ADHD. So it was a spike of intensity.
So for you, it was more, so if we're going to do a tapping, it's more that he wasn't thinking about you, or was just sort of autistic, or what would,
all of the above, all of the above. So first,
say?
so here are my complaints as a wife. So first of all, he didn't set it up on my computer.
Okay.
He set it up on his.
Okay.
Then he had difficulty getting into the email address, of course, because it was on his computer, not mine,
Right.
to get the link.
Right.
And then he just kept working on his computer instead of getting up and leaving the room so that I could just, before coming on.
All right. So,
he does,
okay. So the specific, so the feeling you had was what? Being annoyed?
frustration.
Frustration.
This,
So even though, well, so, you know, if you tap on the side, even though, what would we say, even though my husband was, even though I'm frustrated because he, you know, set this up on the wrong computer.
yeah. So even though I'm frustrated because he set it up on the wrong computer.
And did it, and it was working till the last second.
Working up into the very last second. I had to kick him out.
And I couldn't settle, and I think you said I couldn't settle down, I couldn't settle in.
Didn't have time to settle that I had planned for.
Yeah. I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself and him.
And
I
him. Okay. So one more time, even though my husband set this up on his computer instead of mine,
set this up on his computer instead of mine,
which I'd asked him to do on my,
which I had asked him to do quite clearly and specifically.
Yeah. And kept me waiting to the last minute.
Kept me waiting the last second.
So I couldn't settle and do what I wanted and get.
Couldn't settle and do what I wanted. Oh, I was still frustrated. Oh.
And I was all frustrated.
And I was all frustrated, and I still feel it.
I still feel it. I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
Oh, I forgot to ask you, was it a 4 or how much was it?
Yeah, it was about a 4.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to tap the top of your head. He set it up on the wrong computer.
Set it up on the wrong computer.
Didn't do what I asked.
Didn't do what I asked.
Kept me waiting to the last minute.
Kept me waiting the last second.
Last second. So frustrated.
So frustrating.
I couldn't settle.
Couldn't settle.
Kept me waiting.
Kept me waiting.
Didn't do what I asked.
Didn't do what I asked.
And under your arm, and I couldn't settle.
Couldn't settle.
Take a deep breath.
It's already different. By the time it hit here, I felt it was different.
So what number would you say it's at now?
Probably about a 1.
Okay. So I think for our purposes, we've done a little round and people can see how cool this is. And I was going to try to call. So if George wasn't in, if we had trouble, I could have just gone and asked, I could have clicked this and asked for help and he would have popped in, which is really cool. But it was kind of cool. Anything you want to, since you were watching us, any feedback you want to give us as students?
Yeah, one of the things that was going on that we didn't plan was kind of Bob was doing some detective work. And detective work is a big part of EFT, trying to figure out, well, what are we going to tap on? What's the issue? How can we distill it down to something that we can work on effectively? And so it's not always a matter of you sit down and your client says, boom, we're going to work on this. And you say, cool, okay, this, and your setup statement just flows and everything just happens. There's a process of kind of figuring that out.
Which would have happened in an earlier session, Zoom practice session. This particular Zoom practice session is later in the sequence. Right.
So we ask people to come into a session with an issue, queued up, so that we don't have to waste the time of figuring out what's going on with it. We just, because we're practicing the techniques themselves, and then
but even then, I think sometimes people needs a little tuning in anyway.
Oh, most of the time, yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of preamble that kind of goes along and you're listening with your EFT ears, and then you go, oh, okay, there's the neutral point. Oh, okay, here's the beginning of the story.
So, and after this is over, we'd go back to the main room, but we know there's nobody there at this moment because, so we can just pretend we're in the main room, and we would debrief a little bit.
Yeah.
And that would be, and this would go on for an hour, a full hour. And we could have done this whole thing, and we could have if there was time, we could have switched and she would have worked with me. But I think the point is that you get the sense of and this would be the same as if you're sitting in a hotel room, doing around chairs.
Yeah, because you can't track the breathing as well, and you
Not as
can't
well.
track the lower body postures as well. But you do get there. You just need an extra few moments.
Right. I mean, and it depends what you do, but like, for instance, I have it on this view, but I think if you do it this way, if I was working with you, I could see you. You can't tell, but you're much bigger now. So I can track your breathing a little better now that I have the camera only on you.
It's harder when clients wear black, though, I noticed.
Yeah. And
it's a lot harder.
And if the camera's a little further back, they can see it. Anyway, folks, we hope this was helpful for you. And hopefully we'll see you in the course. So we'll put it back to the gallery room and we'll all say bye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Bye.